Good afternoon and welcome to the Alliance's annual membership meeting, where we exchange ideas and take care of the business of the Alliance. I'm Samantha Collins, Membership Manager at the Alliance, and I'll be your host for today's webinar. Today, you'll hear from Alliance Board President Marion King, Pulaski County Judge Barry Hyde, Volunteer Katrina Bishop, and Kathy Webb, Alliance CEO. Today, we'll announce the winners of 10 $500 mini grants at the conclusion of today's meeting. Before we get started, I want to go over a few housekeeping rules to help the webinar flow smoothly. First, we'll cast a vote during today's meeting, and this vote is for members of the Alliance only. Second, please remember to put your name and the name of the organization you represent in the chat box for the purposes of drawing for the grants. Second, please put your name in the name. Third, you may chat freely in the chat box with other members of this webinar, but if you have questions for the Alliance staff, please put those in the Q&A chat box. With that being said, I would like to introduce our Alliance Board President, Marion King.
Hey, good afternoon. I'm Marion King, President of the Alliance Board of Directors, and I call our meeting to order. It is an honor to serve as president this year alongside a hardworking board and staff. The Executive Committee also serves as the nominating committee for new board members, and according to bylaws, we present our work at this meeting. As chair of the nominating committee, I make the following report. The nominating committee met via Zoom on September 27th to select candidates for the Alliance Board of Directors. The committee voted unanimously to submit the following for membership to the Board of Directors effective January 1st, 2024. Dr. Chania Eubanks, Dr. Chris Jones, and Joe Verser. Samantha, if you don't mind, will you please post the names on the share screen? Are there any nominations from the floor? Seeing no nominations, nominations are now closed. Samantha, will you please put the information on the screen? Alliance members, you may vote for Chania, Chris, and Joe by voting yes. Those opposed will vote no. We will give you a few seconds to vote, and Samantha, a few seconds to tally the results. Congratulations to Chania, Chris, and Joe. We will post information about our new members on our website and on social media in the upcoming weeks. I'll now turn it over to Alliance CEO, Kathy Webb, to present the State of the Alliance.
Thank you, Marion, and thank you, Samantha. And just a second reminder to put your name and the name of the organization you represent in the chat box if you haven't, for purposes of the mini grants. Also want to thank all of you for being here today and for your continuing efforts to alleviate and eliminate hunger in Arkansas. I'm Kathy Webb, and I've had the privilege of serving as the CEO of the Alliance for over a decade. I always enjoy this meeting because it gives us an opportunity to share with you, our members, what's happened at the Alliance over the last year. We offer a big thanks to Board President Marion King for guiding the board and staff this year. We appreciate our entire board for their service and work, especially our outgoing board members, Scott Hamilton, Mike Ingram, and Kara, and we welcome those you've just elected. I also want to thank our staff for their dedication to service and justice. We have an amazing team at the Alliance. Their dedication is inspiring. It was recently on full display when a third of us were out with COVID, and those left standing pulled off the biggest statewide summit we've ever had. That summit was just one thing of many that happened this year. We started with an aggressive agenda for the Arkansas General Assembly. We've been working on the Farm Bill in Congress all year. We have families struggling with inflation. We had a devastating tornado, and today we're faced with an imminent government shutdown for which we're making contingency plans. We continue to see high demand for food assistance, and while the massive federal response during the pandemic kept many Arkansans from sinking into poverty, with the dramatic drop-off in commodity support, the expiration of certain food assistance waivers, and the expiration of programs such as the child tax credit, we are now seeing families sinking into poverty because of our political choices. But we are working hard across the board to combat this. The Alliance Food Sourcing team of Michelle Shope and Brandon Chapman continues to assist the food banks in securing more nutritious food by seeking grants, offering new food purchasing programs, and improving the garden and gleaning program. Michelle and Brandon operate the only fresh beef donation program in the country, securing 10,000 pounds of ground beef for food banks each month. Next month, Brandon and Michelle will be breaking ground on a high visibility garden in partnership with Trinity Cathedral and Tito's. This garden will be a model for Central Arkansas neighborhoods. We've told you about the SNAP call center that launched in 2020. Last year was our busiest yet, taking 12,000 calls from 75 counties. Our team of 3, Kathy May, Parker Blake, and Valentina Simon, took those calls, conducted trainings in English and Spanish across the state, and worked tirelessly during the session to prepare SNAP fact sheets for our bill sponsors and for legislators. They listen with compassion, offering solutions and hope to those who trust them with the stories of their lived experience. Our intern, Natalie Shalem, was so inspired by the work of the SNAP team and by their personal stories that she made a documentary about them that's available to view on our YouTube channel. Fighting for increased SNAP benefits has been part of our advocacy work for a long time. And while many states went backwards this year, Arkansas didn't. We passed a one-time exemption to asset limits and worked hard on general SNAP education. Our advocacy director, Lance Whitney, has made multiple trips to DC this year, fighting for a strong safety net in the Farm Bill, of which SNAP is the cornerstone. Lance did double duty this year, learning his way around the Hill and organizing our best ever state lobby day in February. When we get through the government funding crisis and get the Farm Bill passed, Lance will turn all his attention ahead to the 2025 session. We hope you'll schedule him to conduct a SNAP advocacy training in your service area early next year. The Alliance No Kid Hungry team has had a remarkable year. Jamie Kirksey, Liam Hankins Hall, and Lakin Ross have crisscrossed the state, training 22 new education partners, nutrition education partners, and touching over 5,000 people with nutrition ed information. Plus, they launched our produce prescription program with Baptist Health, where seniors with diet-related health conditions can qualify for $50 worth of fresh produce monthly. When scaled, this can be game-changing for many Arkansans with diet-related illness. Jasmine Zandy, Vivian Nicholson, and Patty Barker have made a big impact for a long time, but 2023 has been the biggest year yet. Working with Senator Bozeman, then responding to positive changes in how summer meals are delivered, they directed over $305,000 in grants to 19 partners so the partners could get the equipment they needed to serve congregate meals this past summer. Partners reported huge increases in meals served during what's the hungriest time of the year for kids, with one community reporting an increase of 81% kids served. That's huge. And in what's possibly our biggest legislative win ever, over a decade of work by Vivian and Patty and others, resulted in the passage of Act 656, which eliminated the reduced price copay for school breakfast and lunch. To put it plainly, that means 49,000 more Arkansas kids are now able to get no-cost school breakfast and lunch. 49,000. If we were in person, I'd lead a standing ovation for Vivian and Patty for their tireless work and their firm belief that we could do this. Our Thursday morning team does a lot to keep things going, to expand programs and keep the lights on. With Director of Development Jennifer Owens-Bowie's leadership, we set a record for serving up solutions with more people attending, more legislator engagement, more volunteers, and more dollars raised than ever. Last week, Jennifer and our breakfast chairs set a record for Hunger Action Breakfast, again with more sponsors and more attendees than ever. Jennifer's working hard to secure funding for all our programs, as well as our operational needs. Our communications manager, Jessica Crenshaw, has raised the quality and impact of our social media. If you haven't watched the videos of our honorees from the Hunger Action Breakfast, take a moment and prepare to be inspired. When Jessica was asked what she's most proud of, she said being part of the campaign to get qualified parents to sign their kids up for school meals. This campaign resulted in more qualified families than ever registering for school meals, with a host of benefits to the kids in school that go far beyond meals. Our operations director, Tamika Williams, is the glue that holds us together. And Tamika now has a gallon jug of Elmer's to prove it. Our donors know and state agencies know that we can be trusted with donor and taxpayer dollars because Tamika keeps us all on track. Our program people do the work, and Tamika keeps us on track, guiding us to flawless audits, accounting for every penny, literally, as well as representing us well at meetings across Arkansas. Our membership manager, Samantha Collins, does things like organize this meeting, put together grant opportunities for you, our members, plan projects like the Pulaski County Hunger Reduction Project with Judge Hyde, and more. And Samantha has done 2 extra things, working with the team of Lakin, Valentina, Liam, and led by Jasmine on a new Alliance Ambassador program, which is an opportunity for those under 30 to get mentoring and volunteer opportunities with the Alliance. Check it out on the website. And Samantha's worked with Jessica and volunteers Julia and Lee on the upcoming 2nd Annual College Hunger Summit, October 11th, which we hope you'll attend. I might be biased, but we have an incredible team. With over 500 members, including the 6 founding food banks, our incredible team, amazing board, and you, the Alliance is a strong statewide voice, tackling more than we ever have, including the major projects I've already named, plus the first ever statewide summit on solutions to food deserts, which featured speakers from across the South who are making positive things happen in their local communities. On behalf of our team and board, know that our bold commitment to working together to achieve our vision of a hunger-free Arkansas is unwavering. I thank you, and I thank you for the opportunity to be part of this team for over a decade. We're now finished with the bylaws portion of our meeting, and we get to hear from 2 close friends of mine who are raising the bar on what we can do to tackle hunger in Arkansas. First, I'd like to introduce my friend Katrina Bishop. Katrina works with ACI, the Arkansas Center for Health Improvement, as well as being a first-year student at the Bowen School of Law. Earlier this year, Katrina took the SNAP Challenge and posted and blogged about the impact it had on her. We've asked Katrina to share her thoughts about the challenge with you, our members. Thanks, Katrina.
Thank you so much. I just want to take a moment to thank everybody for being on the call today, taking time out of your day to talk about food insecurity. And I wanted to thank the Alliance for getting everyone together to have this conversation and to advance our goals. Overall, I think that everyone should take the SNAP Challenge. I know that everybody, well, I think it's safe to say that everybody on this Zoom call has an interest in addressing food insecurity, whether it's a personal reason, whether you have a loved one that's experienced food insecurity, or maybe you're just aware that it's a problem here in Arkansas and are passionate about trying to fix it. For me, it's both personal and professional. Like Kathy said, I work for the Arkansas Center for Health Improvement. I'm a health policy analyst. So I spend my day looking at data. You know, we work a lot on Medicaid and WIC and maternal and infant health, food deserts in Arkansas. But beyond that, it's personal because when I was a teenager, you know, I was raised in a household with two parents who struggled with alcoholism. We always had food. It was usually fast food, but it was there. But when I was about 16, my parents and I decided that it was best that we go our separate ways. So for the last 2 years of high school, I spent my time kind of floating back and forth between my friends' houses, sleeping on their couches. You know, and for those that had parents, adding another mouth to feed was quite a burden. And I remember Friday afternoons, the local church would bring us little brown bags with sandwiches in them. And, you know, we didn't know that it was food insecurity. You know, we thought peanut butter sandwiches and, you know, hot dogs were fine. And it was something that I didn't pay attention to until a lot later. So fast forward, you know, it's been a long time since then. Life looks a lot different. And, you know, as a policy analyst, you know, my job, my goal is to make data easy to understand, to tell the story, but the data is only a part of it. So having this SNAP Challenge was a great way to get back to remember what it was like. You know, I thought that it would be easy for me because I remember not having a lot of money. I remember being able to buy a loaf of bread for 87 cents, and this is in Texas. You know, and so I had a plan in mind. You know, my girlfriend and I decided to do this challenge together. So we had $40 to split between the two of us for the week. We spent a lot of time trying to plan our meals, you know, but even then, when we got to the grocery store, our plans kind of fell apart because prices were different, or what we thought we were going to be able to get was unavailable at that store. And, you know, it made me think about how lucky we were, how privileged we were to have the time to spend thinking about that. You know, we have a decent amount of knowledge about nutrition and trying to collect coupons and find the best deal. But that doesn't change the fact that sometimes it doesn't work out the way you planned. And, you know, there are plenty of people that are working 2 jobs and trying to raise a family and just don't have the time to spend meticulously going through the sales of that week. You know, and even when we were at the grocery store, something that we found out was just how much incentive there was to buy the carbs and buy the sugary items. One thing that we noticed was, trying to get oats. Oats can be used for so many things. They can, go into your meatloaf, or, you can have them for breakfast, or, you can make granola out of them. But buying the big thing of oats that, price per unit is cheaper, theoretically, than buying the individual packets of instant oatmeal. It was still a larger portion of our total budget that we couldn't afford. So we were incentivized to buy the sugary oats. When you think about how you start your day in the morning with breakfast, and all you have is sugary carbs, you're going to be hungry shortly after, and you're going to be craving food, and you just don't have any. And the frustration around that, I know I fall victim to being hangry from time to time, but at this point in my life, I can address that very easily. But during that week, I couldn't. Beyond that, it was things like food allergies and food sensitivities, and programs like WIC and SNAP have been adjusting to try to make space for that. But still, even if you can get substitutes for peanut butter, almond butter is still very expensive. And, finding good protein that can actually keep you full eats into your budget. And when you only have $40, you need to plan for your proteins. You need to have breakfast, lunches, and dinners, and if you're lucky, a couple of snacks in between. And so you can't buy, the big pack of ground beef, or, the good chicken. So it was all of these little bits and pieces that I didn't think about as a kid. I didn't know to think about as I was going into this challenge, because, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches don't cut it as an adult. We also found that, I think there's a lot about the trauma around food insecurity. When I was going through this experience, I realized there was a lot of things that I hadn't worked through from my childhood, in the sense that all of a sudden I found myself trying to hold on to as much food as I could. There was this kind of lasting impact that, I still have today, where, I'm not sure if I should take the leftovers and wrap them up in a napkin and take them home with me, so I have a snack for later in case I get hungry. And I think that's maybe something that people don't think about, that even when you get yourself out of a situation of food insecurity, the effects are still there. I know for me, I'd gone to the doctor before the challenge had started, and they had told me that my B vitamins were a little low. And typically that's easy for me to address. I can just adjust what I eat. I can buy more food that has high levels of B vitamins in them. But if you're on a SNAP budget, you don't have that flexibility. So it's easy to see where your health can really become compromised, and there's no way to get out of that as long as you're living on a SNAP budget. I had a friend of mine that asked me in the middle of this process how I stayed motivated. And the first thing that came to my mind was, I only had 5 days. By Saturday, I could go to the grocery store and buy whatever I wanted. I could go to a restaurant and order whatever meal I wanted to eat at the time. I had an end in sight. And I think there's a lot of SNAP recipients that might not have that end. Of course, they would love to get off living on a SNAP budget. But it is so much more difficult than it seems to get out of that hole. And it's without having something to look forward to, it becomes even more frustrating and depressing. I also realized that, you know, we only had to plan for a week. It's a lot different when you have to plan for a month. You know, it's different when, you know, you have kids with you at the grocery store and they're asking, you know, to get a snack because they're hungry and you know that it's not in the budget. And what that would do to me as a person, knowing that I couldn't take care of my kids. It was hard enough when I knew that I really wanted this particular snack, but couldn't afford it. So those were some of the bigger takeaways. I think that it is very important to experience this. There were things that came up that I would have never anticipated. Just looking at the data, you don't get all those details. How everything kind of compounds. You know, it's being hungry and then getting frustrated and cranky because you don't have that food, how that impacts your ability to do work and focus. You know, you don't have the energy to make time for exercise, nor do you have the food to sustain you through exercising. The toll that takes on your mental health are all things that you don't see when you look at just the numbers. You know, that I think is something that everyone should experience or hear about at the very least. You know, and I also think that doing it for a week isn't always long enough. If you could do it for 2 weeks or even a month and really understand, like maybe you have more potatoes left over so you can buy more protein next time. But, you know, also, how do you budget for a month worth of food with so much being unknown during that time? Are all good takeaways from this, I think. But with that, I think I might be close to time. So I'll stop here. If there's any questions, of course, I'm happy to answer. But one more thing that I definitely want to make sure I mention is that it is so incredibly expensive to be poor. It seems like you can make it, but it's those little things. Like I said, as a kid, I remember a loaf of bread being 87 cents, but when we were at the grocery store, we couldn't find a loaf for under $2.50. And it was only that price if you could buy 5 loaves. And of course, you know, we didn't need 5 loaves, but $12 out of a $40 budget is not possible. When there's so many other things that you need to get. So instead, if you wanted the bread, you had to pay an even higher price. And you had to keep paying that increased price week after week. So it is incredibly expensive to be poor. But thank you.
Sorry, I was on mute. Thank you, Katrina. Like you said, you knew your challenge would have an end, unlike the challenge thousands of Arkansans face daily. But we can all learn from the challenge and hopefully have more empathy and resolve to achieve our vision. Now we're almost at time, but we have one more exciting speaker. County Judge Barry Hyde has been a long friend of the Alliance, and he's currently serving his 3rd term as Pulaski County Judge. Prior to that, Judge Hyde served in the legislature, where he was known as some who did his homework and got things done. Nothing's changed. Judge Hyde sees a problem and looks for a solution. Whether it is improving the quality of life through more trails, helping our unsheltered neighbors get housed, or alleviating hunger, Judge Hyde is about answers. It's a privilege to get to introduce Judge Barry Hyde.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank all of you for being here today. And here at Pulaski County, we're excited about all the great work. I have to remember to look at the camera. The camera's not actually on my laptop, so I will try and keep that straight today. But we're excited for what we've been able to accomplish with the Pulaski County Hunger Reduction Initiative what it's accomplished, and we're going to try and show you a couple of quick points, and then make ourselves or make myself available for questions, and try and help you with anything that you'd like to know. So why we started the Pulaski County Hunger Reduction Initiative to begin with, and so it's you already know the answer to these stories, at least everyone here does. When COVID hit,
Judge Hyde, you went on mute real quick. If you could-
Well,
There
I'm
we
not
go.
sure how I'm on mute, but I'll try not to do that again. So I was saying why we started the Pulaski County Hunger Reduction Initiative, and how it got going. And I think everybody knows the answer to that story. COVID hit, and lockdowns and quarantines, and it made it more difficult for individuals to access nutritional meals. It was apparent that the process and infrastructure to assist our citizens was not fully prepared to meet such an event. I'm not sure that any part of our society was ready to meet the needs of that event. But I knew more could be done to assist these folks, and the pandemic really accelerated the call to action. And there's part of the benefit from the pandemic is what we learned, and what we learned about ourselves, and what more we can do than what we're already doing, and not to fall into the or not to get too comfortable, I guess, with the habits that we have. The quality of life of all the citizens in Pulaski County is extremely important, and a need to support the local food pantries, which I've been supporting for years, and continue to amaze me. The spread and the different people from our community that you find inside our pantries operating them. And so the initiative came up after conversations, I think, between Kathy Webb and myself, and we decided to start a pilot program to see if this would work, and if we could use some of this available money to do it. In 21, I think we put an appropriation of $100,000 forward, and challenged Hunger Relief Alliance to locate pantries that were interested in this program, knowing that it was government money, so there would be an added burden for them. We need to know how many people they served and how they were served, and account for them, to be able to account to a federal treasury audit on how we spent the money. And to our pleasant surprise, it was a huge success. There was a couple pantries that just weren't comfortable with the additional data to be kept, but by and large, the huge majority were well prepared, able to do it, and did a very, very, very good job. So that pilot program served over 16,000 residents, and it was an easy decision to expand the program for 22. After all, 21 was a pilot program. We wanted to see what we could do. And so we began using ARPA funds to follow this program up. We established it with initially a $440,000 appropriation to get started on the new initiative. I don't know if you all are seeing these slides, but to run through them kind of quickly, you are 220, nearly 222,000 meals were distributed in Pulaski County, and 284,000 pounds of food. In slide 3, you can see a quick map of Pulaski County, and see what a great job, really, again, the folks at Hunger Relief did in identifying quite a number. Actually, I think in the end it was 35 pantries that were spread out all across the county, because we wanted to, make sure that we were reaching everybody as much as was possible. From Sweet Home all the way to Roland and all the way down to Woodson and all the way up to Macon and north of Jacksonville, we were able to bring existing, functioning, successful pantries into a part of this program. As a matter of fact, this initiative assisted almost half of all the low-income residents that we have in Pulaski County. And all the statistical information we were able to gather really is because of the work that our pantries and the folks at Hunger Relief did to track this all along the process, so we could measure success and support furthering the program. Matter of fact, in our program in Roland, the quote from the folks that were operating that pantry was that we have experienced a sharp increase in the number of clients this year, and our donations have not kept up, which was the story for every single pantry as the COVID gained ground and gained speed and gained territory. So without this grant, we would not have been able to provide turkeys and hams for Thanksgiving and Christmas. That is a tradition that we have done for as long as I've been with this pantry, and it would have been a disappointment to many people had we not been able to do that. And this program allowed them to continue that tradition to support people in their holidays. And then in our sixth slide, you'll see the impact that we were able to record ethnically across the county, where 51% of the recipients of or the beneficiaries of the additional food in the pantries were African Americans, and a third was the Caucasian or the white population. We always, when we take censuses, we see that we claim that we have 4% of our population is Hispanic or Latina, but we know from this that nearly 9% of the people who benefited from this program was in fact the Hispanic community. So again, it's just a really great job from Hunger Relief in getting the information out and recruiting the pantries. And I'm certainly proud of Pulaski County government's portion in this, but the pantries are the boots on the ground. They're the people that did the work. They're the people that kept the eye out for those who were in need and found a way to make the program work in their neighborhoods and their community. So in slide 7, you'll see that over 50,000 children, 122,000 adults, and over 30,000 seniors benefited from our program. And we did one of the things that I've done and like to do, and if you ever get a chance, I hope that you will do it, is ride along with our Meals on Wheels folks here and deliver some of the lunches that they deliver every day with them. The need amongst our senior population is just really, grabs me by the heart. The number of elder members with disabilities and the all the decline of health that comes along with becoming older, and how difficult it is to not only be able to afford food, but even to gain access to it. And I don't know if we're going to mention this somewhere in my notes further down, but one of the significant things that that Kathy pointed out to me when we first started talking about this, and part of the prototype or the initial project or program that we began, was how we get this pantry food to the people in the community that are not mobile. They don't, they're physically not able to visit a pantry. They don't have transportation, and the pantry doesn't have enough money to pay for gas for somebody to deliver food to these folks who are not mobile, or to pay somebody to deliver. Those numbers tell you how many people we touched. And remember that this entire county is only 400,000 people. So the need for this food was great. And then in slide 8, Salvation Army gave us a quote and said it was a huge boost for their service as we both provided protein that would otherwise be difficult to provide, and we created new programs and partnerships with the money for fresh fruits and fresh vegetables. And another one of the small victories within the big victory was the ability or the power we were able to give to pantries to make their own decisions on where their food was going to come from. People who run these pantries they're in the grocery stores and they're feeding their own family and their relatives, so they know where they can buy food, and they know when XYZ grocery is going to have the good produce, and they know when the price is going to be best on the produce, and they really stretch these dollars by using their experience, and I think probably brought a lot of bright days to people who needed that access to the pantries, in benefiting from help to fill their own pantry. But it wasn't just canned green beans. I like canned green beans, don't get me wrong, but they got fresh green beans or fresh corn on the cob, and I'm certain that was really that was an extra little something for those folks. And so I guess I already mentioned it, but I did have in my notes here to make a point about the deliveries, and one of the pantries that we visit, I was able to actually visit this brand new pantry at Philander Smith College. It was such a success for them in being able to deliver food to those who were in need but couldn't physically access the pantry. They were able to get a Panther pantry delivery vehicle from the school so that they could get out and take food to those folks. And then the last slide you'll see is that we were able to also use some of these funds in this program to create hunger gardens, and you can see one of them was here at the Roland crisis closet. Just another example. I mean, there's a number of pantries that have been in operation for years and years and years and years in our county, and they're successful and they have their ways of doing things. But when the need, became so great during the pandemic, and we were able to provide some incentive and some additional resources for them, they used their experiences and their volunteers, to do everything that possibly could have been done, and take all the advantage of the funds we were providing that I think could be taken. So, it's been a great experience for me personally, and I think it's been a great experience for Pulaski County government to be able to step in, and especially in a time of crisis, and do something that hadn't been done before, and we haven't needed to do before, I guess. It wasn't that hard to get people going. I mean, sometimes we don't take innovative actions because we have the built-in excuse of, well, we don't have the money for that. And you know, the willingness to do that original pilot program with a relatively small amount of money to get that proof of concept and figuring out how could it work and would it work and how many people could we help, certainly was something that that put us on a path to figure out how we would fund it and kind of put a big onus on us to get busy and make it work. And for me, I'm going to be honest with you, it was really relatively easy because my friends at the Hunger Relief Alliance made it easy for me. You know, Kathy and her crew are just awesome at what they do and their follow through and available to capture the data. So I don't know how much more time we have, but I planned on answering any questions that you all may have or any other information that I can provide to you.
Yeah, thank you, Judge Hyde. I know that I'm inspired by all that I've heard, and we do have a couple minutes for some questions if anyone wants to put those in the chat.
Well, I'm going to assume that means I talked just the right amount of time.
It looks like we do have one question.
Oh.
What gave you the idea to help local hunger relief organizations in this way?
Well, so from earlier experience, back where I first met Ms. Webb as members of the General Assembly in 2006, there used to be a program they had where they had some excess funds at the end of each cycle of the General Assembly, and they would distribute some of those funds out to representatives and senators to try and do things within their own community or their own jurisdiction of their elected position. And so I'd gotten, you know, I don't even remember how I got started, but I got in touch with some folks who ran some of the pantries in my district. At that time, it was District 40. And I'd never really been exposed to that. I grew up in very modest environment as a young kid, but I don't ever recall that we were had to be in a pantry or that there even was a pantry in our community. But I was so impressed with how much care and how much commitment the people who were running and volunteering in these pantries exhibited in really trying to get every bit of food together they could and really working to try and make sure that they had the outreach, that they were known to their community and help was available here. And, you know, through those funds, we were able to help them buy some food. We were able to help them buy quite a few trailers. At that time, the food pantry or the food bank, I'm sorry, was really helping these local pantries. But they didn't have any way to go to the food bank and pick up all this food that they had and that they could get for their pantry. And so we helped them obtain trailers that they could use to carry all their food in one or two moves. And you know, I've just never forgotten that. It's kind of like delivering lunches to senior citizens with CareLink. If you'll ever go do that, just one afternoon, go do that, you will never forget it. I promise you.
Awesome. Thank you. I have one more question for you, for our members. How can our members create a program like this in their respective counties?
Well, you know, I would say to figure out how to put together a pilot program. You know, find a source for some money, whether it's some of the faith organizations or your local cities or county, or civic organizations and put together some of those funds and tell them what you're trying to do and pick out the pantries that that will fit for you and whatever criteria you want to have. Like we really insisted on the ability to gather the statistics of, who were we helping, how many people were we helping, where, in what parts of the county were we helping them, and be persistent. No good work is ever easy. It may feel like it's easier after it's all done, but when you're in the thick of it, it's all hard work, but it's all good work.
Well, thank you so much for sharing with us about the Pulaski County Hunger Reduction Initiative. We are now excited to announce that we'll be able to offer 10 $500 mini grants to help agencies purchase items like protein, canned goods, fresh fruits and vegetables, a refrigerator, PPE, and other various items that will help agencies support their clients' needs. Please allow 10 to 14 business days for these grants to arrive. The following agencies will receive the grant: Christ Corner Food Pantry, Conway Ministry Center, Dumas Food Pantry, First Assembly in North Little Rock Church, Girls Incorporated at Fort Smith, Iglesia Creciendo en Cristo, Parkway Place Baptist Church, Serenity Incorporated, Stone County Food Ministry, and Waves of Prayer. Congratulations to those named. Remember, grants are just one benefit of membership at the Alliance. Please check out our website and follow us on social medias to find the way the Alliance can assist you in ways that you can assist Arkansans struggling with hunger. Again, thank you for coming and for all that you do to end hunger in Arkansas.